Hello and welcome. It's the Field of 68 after dark, and it's the week of the Final Four. Gentlemen, I am so excited. It's a wild Final Four, to say the least. I don't think anybody on earth expected these four teams to be the teams who are headed to Houston with a date to potentially cut down the nets and win a national championship, but I'm still excited for it. We got Rob Dauster here. We got Tyler Hansbrough here. My name is Greg Waddell. And as always, you can watch us on the Field of 68 YouTube channel. We are also live on Sirius XM channel 84. If you are watching us on the YouTube channel, stick around after the show. We will do the afters, take any questions you guys have that you throw at us throughout the hour. If you want to ask Tyler Hansbrough anything about the Final Four, now is your chance, ladies and gentlemen. And Tyler, I don't like to do this to you. I've never done this to you before, my friend, but I'm going to ambush you with something here. Rob and I had a little surprise in store for you tonight. Rob, you want to take it from here?
A little whistle pig.
Solid. I know about whistle pig.
What do you got?
I don't even have a drink right now. I feel ashamed. I'm ashamed of myself. I should have got some good whiskey out with you.
Rob was on the phone with me about 10 minutes before the show, ambushing me with critiques as always. And he goes, we should probably toast to Tyler tonight with some bourbon. I was like, amen. So this is Makers in my glass. It's not see-through as Rob's is, but this is in your honor, Mr. Hansbrough. It's the Final Four week. You are a man who knows a thing or two about Final Fours, and that is the energy we needed to do to start this show. Let's start, Rob, with your team. We're going to get to a lot of different stuff the hour tonight. Obviously, we are headed down to Houston this week for a bunch of live shows, so we're not going to get too into the weeds with this show as far as matchup previews. We're going to keep this kind of big picture so that we save a lot of that stuff for later on in the week. What we are going to talk about tonight, who should you be rooting for? Whether you're a casual college basketball fan, whether you're someone who lives, breathes this sport. If you don't have a team here, who should you be rooting for? Is it Rob Dauster's UConn Huskies? Is it one of the other three teams who are a little more surprising to be here? We're going to talk transfer portal, a lot of movement in the last day. It's been a crazy 24 hours, particularly with Tyler's Tar Heels. And then at the end of the show, we're going to ask Tyler what it's like to go through a Final Four. What's the entire week like? Do you have time to think? Do you have time to have fun? Or is it just basketball? But first, gentlemen, Rob, let's start with your team. The UConn Huskies are the favorite to win the national championship. One of the last shows I did on After Dark was with the two of you gentlemen. We went game by game for the tournament, filled out a bracket, and we had the UConn Huskies winning this tournament, and I rolled my eyes. I said this was homerism. I made fun of you. I said there was no chance this is going to happen, and now here we are with 2 games left to get there, and UConn is a betting favorite at Bet Rivers to win the national championship, minus 139 with our good friends at Bet Rivers. There's some juice there as well. Rob, is this UConn? Is this him versus the field, or are you more worried than that?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the bracket that we did together, because I think we should all just kind of sit here and reminisce about that Oral Roberts Elite Eight run. Just a memorable Cinderella run. I think is going to get kind of lost in the annals of history, but that was something that they can never take that away. They can never erase Oral Roberts from the Elite Eight. No, I think that it's UConn against the field, and a lot of that has to do with how good UConn is. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I think the other three teams in this Final Four all have some flaws, or all are exploitable in different ways, and frankly just don't have the same level of talent that these Huskies do. And I would like to think that is something that I would say if I was not incredibly biased in this situation. But Tyler, you tell me, man, like, how do you beat this team? How do you stop this team? How do you slow them down? I don't see a way for Miami to do it, and I don't see a way for San Diego State or Florida Atlantic to be able to do it.
I can't argue with you. And what it's going to take, it's going to take for UConn to have an off night, a very bad off night, because I think they're that much better than every team in the Final Four. The only team that does concern me isn't Miami, it's San Diego State. I think if San Diego State comes out and plays a very physical brand of basketball, which they do, they're a defensive juggernaut, I think they're the only team that could give them a problem if they try to make it an ugly, dirty game. I think that's the way to beat them. But they've won all 4 games by 15 points or more. I don't think there's a team that's playing better right now. And we said here a few weeks ago, and we said UConn's the hottest team. I truly believe that, Rob. I know you got a little, you're kind of a diehard, but I have no connection to UConn, but I love the way they're playing. It's good to see them back on this stage again.
Let me ask you this, Tyler, because I think what we saw in the Creighton-San Diego State game was a level of physicality from San Diego State that Creighton couldn't really handle. And I do think that part of it was just the legs for Creighton wore down. They basically play 5 guys. San Diego State has a deeper bench, but it feels like in the tournament, officials allow things to go a little bit more. They allow teams to play a little bit. They allow you to maybe hand check a little bit more. They allow you to maybe chuck cutters a little bit more. The whole concept of freedom of movement, to me, goes away once that 64-team bracket comes out. Is that, I mean, you've played in NCAA tournaments. Is that something that you experience? Is that something that you're seeing? Am I off base here?
No, I think you're right. And last time I was on here, T.O. was talking about how you have refs from different conferences refereeing with each other. So the chemistry with officials could be a little bit off. And officials do have a different style. Some officials let it go. Some officials are pretty tight. But normally, to me, when I look at the game versus Creighton and San Diego State, you always start the game tight to kind of set a tone and say you're going to call these fouls. And then as the game goes on, you kind of let the players play a little more physical, in my opinion, which it kind of seemed almost to go play that reverse effect in the San Diego State and Creighton game. Because, listen, if you're going to call that late in the game, you call that early in the game to let the players know how you're going to call and decide the game. But looking back at that foul call late, I thought it was a foul. I mean, it is a foul by definition. But the way the game was ref, do you call it? Now that's up for debate.
So I don't think, the way that I kind of look at it is, I don't think that if that call doesn't get made, right, I don't think San Diego State fans are saying this is ridiculous, this is bullshit, we shouldn't have we should have been shooting free throws for the win. Whereas if the foul does get called, then Creighton fans are very loud and boisterous about being upset. And that to me kind of says all you need to know about whether that call should have been made in that spot. But you're 100%. I mean, that's a foul. You put your hand on a guy's hip and you extend, that's a foul. I just don't know if people are whining about it if it's not called. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. It just depends on which side, who you're pulling for. But I can tell you as a player, somebody's hand on your hip when you go up to shoot, that has a bigger effect on your shot than what most people would think, especially that little touch shot coming down the lane. That's not an easy shot. If you're bumped on the hip, especially, it makes a shot tougher. And also you got to think about landing. But I thought the shot off, and then he kind of gave him a little shove. I'm not sure if the shove happened after the shot was released or during the process, but, who knows?
Yeah, to Tyler's point, I think the most controversial thing from my perspective of the final call was just that I thought there were plenty of plays earlier in the game that had equals of contact that were not called fouls. It seemed to me they established the precedent. This was a game that both teams were allowed to beat each other up. And then in the biggest moment, we get a touch call. Yes, it was a foul. No, I don't think equal fouls were called earlier in the game. And this is divisive. Like, this is going to be a moment people look back on. We put the poll out after the game on the Field of 68 social channels, and 50% of voters said it was a foul. 30% of voters said it was a foul, but you don't call it right there. And then 20% of voters said it was not a foul. So there you go. 50-50 call. Ultimately, in the end, San Diego State moves on. Tyler, I want to
know 20% of our voters are from the city of Omaha and from the surrounding suburbs in Nebraska.
Larger population there than we would have expected, Rob. Tyler, I want to ask you about Miami quickly, because in order for UConn to actually do this, to clinch their national championship as a favorite here, they're going to have to get through Miami first. And I'm a little surprised, being the ACC guy that you are, that you think that San Diego State might be a bigger threat to them than Miami. When I look at this Miami team, I see elite shot makers in Isaiah Wong and Nigel Pack. I think as a shot-making duo, they have an argument for being the most prolific single two-player combo in this entire tournament, long before there were only 4 teams left in it. But the guy who I think could make the difference in the UConn matchup is Norchad Omier. I mean, he has been a physical monster. He has dominated on the boards. Obviously, UConn's front court is the biggest beast in the sport right now. They gave it to Drew Timme the entire game, got him in foul trouble, game over. Do you think that Norchad Omier can stick in that matchup, or is that part of why you think UConn will have their way with Miami?
I think Omier is definitely the X factor for Miami. I think Miami's guards can play with him. The thing I do like about Miami is they have tournament experience. They were in the Elite Eight last year. They talked about it post game. Losing the Elite Eight was a big motivating factor for this team this year, and it kept them focused. And they had all the good spirit and all this other stuff. Kind of the reflecting on that.
Are they the vibes team of the Final Four?
Good vibes. Let me see here. Maybe, I don't know, determined or good vibes.
It's them or Florida Atlantic. FAU might have an argument for vibes team after they took the Kansas State Lil Baby song from Kansas State. That was a pretty big vibes
right.
moment.
Yeah.
It's close.
Yeah, you might be right.
If it is a Florida Atlantic game in Miami for a national championship,
oh my God, can you imagine?
I mean, Florida's been struggling since the Gators did it back to back, but that'll be interesting. But here's my issue is if Omier gets in foul trouble, and I think the X factor for UConn is Donovan Clingan, freshman, the 7'2" center coming off. I mean, he's getting 7 points, 5 boards, and almost 2 blocks in about 13 minutes. I think he's a huge X factor for UConn. And if Omier gets in foul trouble, I'm not sure they have the size with Sanogo to really give him some issues down low in the paint. That is my only argument for Miami, and that's why I would lean towards UConn. I think their guards can score, but Jordan Hawkins is playing unbelievable right now. I mean, he's lighting it up from everywhere. I just don't think they had the firepower or the size to compete with UConn, and I'll probably get destroyed in the comments section by every Miami fan out there. But I think UConn. They kind of roll past them.
Rob, who scares you most of these three teams? As a UConn fan, who scares you most?
Tyler already said it. It's San Diego State for multiple different reasons. But if you're looking at the kind of formula to beat UConn, it is 1, don't let them get out in transition. 2, don't let them get to the offensive glass. 3, have somebody inside that can take away the post touches, Sanogo, and like the his ability to score on the block. And 4, a defense that is physical enough and tough enough to take them out of what they want to run. Like I think what you saw Gonzaga do, which I think you're going to end up seeing Miami do, is that they blitzed every ball screen, every dribble handoff, every exchange that involved the guy with the ball in his hands. They blitzed it, and they said, we're not going to let you run your shit. We're not going to let you run off of this curl. We're not going to let you get this. We're not going to let you get that. And I think that that's what you have to be able to do. And I don't think San Diego State needs to switch to be able to do that. I think they got dudes that are tough enough, old enough, strong enough to kind of run UConn out of their sets. And if you don't let them score in transition on the offensive glass and you don't let them run their stuff, they don't have guys that could beat you one-on-one. That's just that's their weakness. And I think San Diego State has the ability to do that. I just don't know, even with all that said, I don't know if they have enough talent to score more than you. Like if they're going to play a game in the 60s, I think UConn still can kind of wear them down and beat them. They have enough guys that can just kind of go out there and make plays. So San Diego State is the matchup that worries me the most. I think you were right about that, Tyler. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they can rock fight anybody to death. That's been proven at this point. Teams are shooting 17% from 3 against the Aztecs in this NCAA tournament. Long due to how great their defense has been. Is there an open door somewhere for some team to just get hot and not miss that many threes? And then all of a sudden their Cinderella run ends. If you can even call it a Cinderella run, maybe. I don't know. I don't expect UConn to shoot that poorly from 3 if they do face off.
I mean, they're a Cinderella. We got 3 Cinderellas in this Final Four.
But is it fair to call San Diego State in context of the other 2 teams that are here? I mean, I guess Miami's right in with them, right? But like, it feels wrong calling those 2 a Cinderella when Florida Atlantic's here.
I would have less of a problem calling Miami I would have more of a problem calling Miami a Cinderella, but like San Diego State's from the Mountain West. The Mountain West hasn't had a team make the Elite Eight ever, right? They don't have teams go deep. They're a good league. They get teams into the tournament, but anybody making this deep of a run from the Mountain West, in my mind, is a Cinderella. I don't care how good you were during the regular season. Same thing with Florida Atlantic. Now, I probably should backtrack. I don't think Miami's not a Cinderella. They were in the Elite Eight last year. They got a bunch of old dudes. They got a coach who coached a team that was a Cinderella to the Final Four in 2006. By the way, Tyler, I got a little factoid for you. That's probably a jinx. And I'm gonna tie myself into knots and twist my mind into pretzels, worrying about this until the game actually happens. When George Mason made the Final Four in 2006, do you know who they beat in the Elite Eight that year?
It had to be, was it UConn? Rudy Gay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Williams, Rudy Gay,
Oh, yeah.
all those guys. Josh Boone was on that team. All those guys.
Oh yeah, I remember that run. That was incredible. Yeah, they beat me. Well, obviously, you know that previously.
That's right.
Round of 32.
Forgot about
my
that.
freshman year.
I'm sorry to bring up bad memories.
Yeah, so they got us in the round.
So we're both
Larinaga.
How about this, huh?
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah, got me the same year. Yeah, they went on a run, and also not a lot of people talk about how physical that George Mason team was. I mean, they were a physical, beat you up. I mean, I think their power forward. They were talking about, you know, transitioning over to being a tight end and trying to go play in the NFL or whatever. But that was a physical team. We got beat up, but usually we could outrun teams. But this is a totally different team than the George Mason.
The power
team.
forward that year was Jai Lewis, 6'7", 275. It's a big dude.
It's the beast, a unit. Yeah.
Absolutely loved him. Loved that entire team. Love Jim Larinaga in general. I'm glad he's back to a Final Four because it makes you reminisce on other moments of his career. He really has a chance to cement himself as a. All right, guys, coming up, we are going to talk about Blue Bloods. Is UConn one of them? And then I also want to ask you guys, who should we be rooting for? Who are you rooting for? What is the best story in this Final Four? That is next on the Field of 68 After Dark. But first, here's a word from our lovely sponsor.
Today's episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play college basketball pick'em, where you can get a little extra sweat during March Madness and win real cash prizes simply by picking player stats in this weekend's games. In pick'em, all you do is predict whether a player will go higher or lower on Underdog's projected totals, whether that's points, rebounds, whatever. For example, if you're like me and you think Zach Edey is going to go nuts in this tournament, pick higher on his points projection, add up to 4 more picks, and if you hit them all, you can win 20 times your money on a single game. Underdog's slick mobile app is easy enough that dummies like Jeff Goodman have even figured it out. So go to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app and use the code FIELD, FIELD, and Underdog will match your deposit up to $100. Now is the time to get in on the madness. So remember, UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code FIELD.
We are back on the Field of 68 After Dark, Final Four week, presented by Bet Rivers, presented by Underdog Fantasy, and presented tonight by the bourbon that Tyler Hansbrough just poured. That's right. During our short commercial break, Tyler said a few short words to us. He said, "I'll be back, gentlemen." I've never seen someone run faster than what Tyler Hansbrough just did, and he came back with a full glass. Tyler, what are you sipping on?
This is kind of a little budget pick out there, but the Trader Joe's Kentucky bourbon straight whiskey is pretty good. If anybody's had it, it's a very solid. I put it up with about anything. Yeah, so it's a great little whiskey. I wasn't going to sit here and let you guys drink bourbon and me just sip on some water, so I had to do it.
Hey, that's how we know he's one of us, Greg. That's how we know he's one of us, man.
I know. I'm both exhilarated and also a little sad that I have to remove outdrank Tyler Hansbrough from my resume now. But hey, it is what it is. All right, I teased this before the break.
Hey,
guys.
Greg, I just one more thing to add real quick. We saw Tyler get up and move, man. Like, you can still play. He still got it, huh? All you got to do
No,
is
sir. No, sir. My knee will not handle that. No,
all you
sir.
if you say Tyler, you can get Trader Joe's bourbon if you go play. You better get this guy a jersey.
Fueled by Trader Joe's.
Yeah, if listen, if there's one person who should be worried heading into the Final Four, quote unquote, media open gym runs this year, it's Terrence Oglesby, who supposedly put on a show last year at that event. Not good news for TO that Tyler Hansbrough is moving this well.
That's what we're doing. We're not telling TO that we're coming. I'm just showing up with Tyler on my squad saying, check up, TO. What you got, man?
Guys, I could not move. I'm telling you, there's not getting up and down the court with my knee right now.
It's all right. You don't have to play defense.
We'll see. All right. I teased this before the break, guys. UConn, blue blood. Where do they belong in this conversation? If they win a national championship this year, they would have 5 titles on their resume that would tie them with the Duke Blue Devils, who are absolutely a blue blood. North Carolina right ahead of them with 6. Kentucky ahead of them with 8. UCLA at the top of the list with 11. Those are your traditional blue bloods. For some reason, it does not feel that UConn is considered in that group, at least right now. If they win this year, Rob Dauster, would you consider your UConn Huskies a blue blood?
I still think that they are a step below, right? I think that Kentucky, Kansas, UCLA, Duke, North Carolina, at this point are in a league of their own. And the reason I say that is because they've gone through multiple different eras and been dominant and been the best programs in college basketball. UConn didn't become this level until the late 90s, right? Now, if they go out and win the title this year, you will have seen them reach the peak, go all the way down to the bottom. They were like second to last in the American in 2018 when Danny Hurley got the job, and then come all the way back to the Big East and ascend that mountaintop again. And when you could do that as a program, to me, that's what kind of screams blue blood. It doesn't matter how bad things get. The peak is still here, but I can't put them in the same conversation as those other programs just yet. Now, if Dan Hurley gets another one in the next 5 to 6 years, that's when I think you have to have a real conversation about it. But for me, it's, you got the blue bloods, which are Duke, Carolina, Kansas, UCLA, Kentucky, right? Did I miss one? No, it's those 5, right? Yeah. You got those 5, and then UConn is at the top of that next tier with the likes of Indiana, with the likes of Villanova, with the likes of Arizona, like that kind of a school. Does that make sense?
I think so. Tyler, what do you think?
I agree with you. And UConn, to me, I've never really I would say maybe Duke. Listen, UConn is an iconic school for basketball. I mean, I'm not sure they're that far. If they are a step below Duke and North Carolina, Kentucky, all these other places. It's not a major step. And the reason I say that is because they've had great players. They've had great history. Calhoun was an amazing coach. I mean, you look at Ray Allen, Kemba Walker, Emeka Okafor, Ben Gordon, Charlie Villanueva, Rudy Gay, all these guys. Not many programs have alums like that. And so when you start talking about people like that, you start talking about UConn, it's known for basketball. I'm not really sure what else UConn is really known for on the big stage. I'm not affiliated. I'm not, running around UConn much. But when I think UConn, I think of UConn basketball. And I wouldn't say they're a major step off. I would put them right there on the top, especially some of these blue bloods haven't really done much recently. And I know UConn is making its way back up to the top.
Yeah, but the only thing, like, UConn's got a 15 to 18 year history of basketball before this year, right? 18 to it was like the late 90s to the mid 2010s that they were at that. To me, that is just Jim Calhoun doing what he does great instead of UConn being this great elite powerhouse program. Now, if Dan Hurley gets it back to that level after that dip like that, then all of a sudden you have to have they're a blue blood. They are what they are.
How does this play into this though, Rob? Because I think you're right as far as longevity goes in this conversation. Like we're what, 2 decades really removed here that we're talking about this era for UConn, where all these other quote unquote blue bloods, you're going back 50 plus years. When I think about what separates UConn from that second tier though, and I whether to put them in tier 1 or tier 2 or in a tier of their own here, it's the fact that even when considering Calhoun's career, if they were to win a national title this year, you'd now be talking about 2 more titles with 2 different coaches since Calhoun was on the sidelines. Like, there aren't other programs that can point to that at all. And I don't know if that's something about, like, UConn has this magic when it's a weird year, when there's Final Fours that are wide open. Like, It would be insane if UConn wins it this year in the same fashion that they did however many years ago it was when they're playing Butler for the national championship, right? Like it's crazy it's broken out that way, but I think that does matter in the blue blood conversation when you start counting titles, and UConn has one more than Kansas does.
Yeah. No, look, trust me, I get it. And I'm probably as biased as anybody, but it's the idea that they had one era. To me, it's about more than just, if you're a blue blood, then it doesn't matter who the coach is. And I know that they won one with Ollie, but that one that they won with Ollie is like, it's a bunch of Calhoun's players and Kevin and Shabazz Napier going nuts. You know what I mean? Like it's not like Kevin Ollie built something on his own there. Whereas Dan Hurley took this from the ground up, and he built it quicker than Jim Calhoun did. And it took less time for him to get it back to the elite level than it did for Jim Calhoun. Now, a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that, there's pedigree there, but I do think that to get to the blue blood status, it's got to be more than just the Jim Calhoun era where you're the elite of the elite. And I think that now, I mean, they're number one in KenPom. They got this great recruiting class coming in. They're going to be in the mix with any portal kid that they want because of the success of like Naheem Aline and Joey Calcaterra and these other guys. Like they're back. They're going to be back. I have a hard time putting them at that same level just yet. In terms, like, if we're talking about the history of the sport. Now, if we're talking about the 2000s, then yeah, UConn's up there with anybody. But if we're talking about the history of the sport dating back to the 50s, UConn they've been relevant for a third of that timeline. Does that make sense?
I think so.
It does to me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it does. I would just say, I guess, like, if it happens this year, then now we are talking two eras, though. And then that's where, like, it becomes harder to separate them from that tier, right? Because there aren't programs that can span multiple eras like this. We'll see. It kind of, like, comparing it to Villanova, to me, it's kind of like where would we put Villanova until there's a post Jay Wright era, right?
Well,
but
they won the title in 1985. I know it was as a 9 seed, but
yeah, true.
Yeah, so right now I think that they're kind of in that same category, right? They're not quite what the big four are. And honestly, I would probably have UCLA a little step below the four blue bloods. Yeah, I mean, they won a whole bunch with John Wooden. They've won one title.
Are we coming at John Wooden?
They've won one title since Wooden.
I am. And I mean, it's too far.
Yeah, let them know,
I mean,
Tyler. Let them know. Let them know.
It's too far. I mean, you got to dust off the history books to look at the national championships. So here's my point is I think Gonzaga might be more relevant in a few years. Even though they haven't won a title, it feels like they're more of a powerhouse than UCLA. And to my opinion, because we're always talking about Gonzaga, national championship game, Final Four this year. What if they won it? It's the final year that Few finally gets a national championship. Well, Gonzaga has been pretty relevant too. I wouldn't classify them as a blue blood, but I would say they're maybe a step below what a blue blood would be considered.
Yeah, I think you're right. They got to get a title to get to that level. Like I know it's nitpicky and the tournament is weird and fluky, but like you got to get into that conversation to the very top tier. You got to have a title on your resume. Greg, how old are you?
I am 29, Rob.
You're 29. Okay. Do you know how old you were the last time that UCLA won a national title?
No.
You were still wearing diapers.
Sounds accurate to me.
Unless you were you're a child of LeVar Ball and you were out of diapers when you were like 7 months old. Right? That
is not what was happening in my toddlerhood. But like, I mean, listen, I get the whole history book thing. I'm not a big history guy when it comes to ranking these programs, but like there's something special about UCLA. Like we're not going to knock UCLA down a peg as the winningest program in college hoops. They've still been awesome.
I think we just did.
I don't think that's fair.
I think we just did.
But like what? Who are we putting them under then? If we're saying bring them down a peg, who's ahead of them?
Just under. I think it's Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, and North Carolina, and then it's UCLA, UConn, and they're probably a little bit above you. But I don't think it's a top 5. I think it's a top 4. Then you have a conversation about UCLA.
Okay, but where is UCLA in that order though? If we're saying that's all a tier,
probably number 5.
You're putting the team with the most titles last in that group?
I think I just did it.
A team in that group was in the NIT this year.
Yeah. And they won the title. They won
hey, easy. All right, we won it in 17. All right, listen, we won.
They won
17.
3 titles
right.
since they won 3 titles.
Oh,
since
actually, excuse no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We got to be a factually correct program here. They weren't in the NIT this year. They were too good for the NIT.
Hey, NIT not in the tournament, so that's
That's true. That's true. All right. Listen, I might still reserve the right to fight you guys on this. I haven't decided. There are other things I want to talk about tonight, but coming up on the show, I might just keep fighting these guys on this. I'm not happy with where they're ranking UCLA right now, but we are going to go to break right now. Coming up next, we finally will get to who should we root for in this Final Four. That's next on the Field of 68 After Dark.
Don't make promises you can't keep, Greg.
I won't do that, Rob. All right. Welcome back, folks. We're coming right back to it. We are live on the Field of 68 After Dark, Sirius XM Channel 84. If you're watching us on the YouTube channel, click subscribe, jump in the comments, throw some questions at these guys, throw some slander at these guys for saying the team with the most national championships is 5th on the list of Blue Bloods. What are we doing, folks? What are we doing? All right. Tyler Hansbrough's here. Rob Dauster's here. My name is Greg Waddell. And it's a simple question. Who should we root for in this Final Four? What is the best story? Who do you want to see cut down the nets and why? Tyler, let's go to you first.
UConn, because we picked them in our bracket. And if you've been following me on my picks in the tournament, it hasn't been looking good. So it's the only bracket that I can actually stand on and look halfway decent in my knowledge. But no, I'm pulling for UConn. It's good to see them back. And, for what they've done in the college basketball world, previously and currently, it's good to see them, getting back to that stage and making that step, getting closer. I think UConn needs to be there. And now all these other schools, hey, it's a good story. FAU, marching through, never been there. Same thing for San Diego State. I love it, but I'm not a big Cinderella guy. I like to see the powerhouses. I like to see the big fan bases and the tradition there. And it feels like UConn belongs, and it kind of feels like they're breaking that door down again and saying, hey, we're back.
I'm going to remove UConn from the list for myself. I'm just going to do it. That's too obvious for me. And I'm going to say that the team that you should be rooting for is San Diego State. And this is why. The Aztecs 4 years ago had a team that was good enough to pull this off. They had a team that was good enough to win a national title. They spent the entire year ranked in the top 10 or the top 5. They were a number 2 seed after losing like 2 random games late in the season. If you remember, and I remember it very clearly, the last game that I watched was Sam Merrill. Remember him for Utah State hitting that step back like 40-footer at the buzzer to beat San Diego State in the I think it was in overtime of the Mountain West tournament title game. And that was right before COVID shut everything down. And San Diego State with Malachi Flynn, with Matt Mitchell, like that was a team that was good enough to go out and make a Final Four and win a national title. And they didn't get that opportunity to do it. Neither did Dayton. That sucks. It's not fair. I feel for those guys. There's 4 players from that group on this team. Agweka Rope, Nathan Mensah, Joel Mensah. I'm blanking on the last one. Adam Seiko. Like those 4 guys were on that team. They're key contributors to this team. Brian Dutcher was the coach of that team. He's the coach of this team. And it feels like that is kind of like the full circle moment that some of those kids deserve, right? Like I remember when that tournament got shut down, like how much that hurt everybody that was involved. That was supposed to be my first time on national television. The first time I was going to do in-studio stuff for NBC Sports Network for the A10 tournament. And it was actually Mike Rhodes and Matt McCall. I remember sitting there watching the screen, getting ready to go live, and it was 11:55. And we got the notice that they canceled the A10 tournament. And I'm watching live as they zoom in on Matt McCall's face, and he goes, "We're not playing," as he's looking at Mike Rhodes. So giving those San Diego State kids a chance to go and get their title, I think that's what I would be rooting for if I, didn't have an obvious bias in this situation. I think that's such a cool story.
That's fair. I'm glad you gave me that spin, Rob. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been sort of dreading any result of the San Diego State team advancing further in this tournament, guys.
Their fans are nuts, dude.
Their fans are nuts.
They're
and
nuts.
I listen, I hope honestly, I'm bringing a San Diego State jersey to Houston this week. It's the only jersey I own of the 4 teams that remain. It's crazy. I don't have a UConn jersey, the jersey collector that I am. I have a Kawhi Leonard Aztecs jersey that will make its way with me to Houston. But I need Aztecs fans to talk some sense into me, man, because I don't like this team. I don't love this team. I respect this team. This team is tough as hell. They're good. But Rob, like the average age of guys on this team is exactly what you just like. They're all like 23 and a half years old. And like, I can applaud them for that. That's awesome that they're still here. But like, they're all playing with their extra COVID year that should they or should they not have had it. It's great they gave that to everybody in the sport, but we got a team full of adult grown men that plays great defense and holds teams to 50 points and 17% 3-point shooting. And if nobody makes a shot against them, they might win a national championship. That would suck if that happens. Like if they win a national championship with UConn going like 2 for 24 from 3, that would be horrendous for our eyeballs for everybody.
It's not a great thing for college basketball to have a team playing that way on national television on the biggest stage. Like in theory, in the big picture of everything, you should want games played like Miami beat Texas. It was 88-81. It wasn't a close game, but it was an unbelievable comeback. It was a great run. I think Miami scored like 42 points in the last 13 minutes of that game to come back and beat Texas. 2 relatively big brands with relatively big fan bases playing an awesome basketball game on national television. And even that didn't do great eyeballs. But I'll tell you this, in 2011, UConn played Butler in a national title game that very few people actually paid attention to. It was a hideous basketball game. The final score was 53-41. No one can make a shot. It was nothing but bricks getting thrown up left and right. I believe that game was also played in Houston, and it survived. Like college basketball was fine. We set record numbers this year on college basketball games being watched. On the field of 68 people watching games and watching streams. I feel comfortable saying this, on CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, they set records. College basketball consumption has never been better than this. Just because you have one fluky Final Four, like, that's fine. I'm going to give you another team to root for, though. Tyler, this is why you want, if Miami beats UConn, this is why you want to be rooting for Miami. Because when the FBI came in and tried to fuck everything up in college basketball and did it in such a horrible way that this pisses me off so much, I might go on a rant. I'm going to avoid the rant now. Maybe later, maybe in the afters. But but Miami was not involved in that at all. Their name got brought into it. It cost them a whole bunch of players, a whole bunch of recruits. It cost them all the momentum that they built in that program. They won the ACC in 2013. They made a couple deep runs with like Shane Larkin and Angel Rodriguez, and then boom, it just completely cratered. And they were terrible for like 3 years. And Jim Larinaga, who, like, I mean, you guys know him, great dude, awesome coach, a lot of fun to listen to stories, built them all the way back, right? And now they are officially all the way back. They are Final Four good after being Elite Eight good last year. And if they can go out and win a national title, and that's like the crowning achievement of Jim Larinaga's career, and this is what gets him in the Hall of Fame, like, I can be mad at that, but I can't be that mad at that, right?
Well, I'm pulling for Miami because they're in the ACC too, and I'm with you on the FBI stuff. I didn't like how they handled that either. I followed that FBI stuff. I thought it was a bunch of BS the way they handled it, but I like Larinaga because I like his low key sense of humor. And whenever Boeheim said, these teams had bought some, teams with the NIL money, whatever. I think he purposely whipped out his money clip on TV and flashed that and then put it right back in his pocket. And I love that move. And I think he's got a great personality. He's really funny, which is something that, I love to see in college basketball. He looks like he's having fun. And his teams, they look like they enjoy basketball, which after watching North Carolina this year is a little refreshing too. But him dancing in the locker room with the guys after the game, I love that. So I'd love to see the kids having fun too.
Greg, what was the thing with the swimmers with Jim Larinaga? You remember that?
Oh yeah, I do. He was like, wasn't he at a swim meet or something, like taking in a photo op at a swim meet in Miami?
He just walked by. Like, I'm pretty sure it was like there was a swim meet after they had just won the ACC, and he was kind of walking by, and all these people were taking a picture, all the Miami swimmers. He was just like, well, you know what? Let me jump in there and take a picture with you guys. Like, this is kind of who he is and the guy that he is. It's awesome.
Yeah, we asked him about it, and he was like, I mean, pretty nice day here in Miami, like at South Beach. Like, I'm not just going to not show that off. Yeah, you guys, you stole my answer here. You beat it to death now, but Miami is my pick. I think that's who you should root for. I think that if you are going to play in this era, there's a lot of different ways. And you could give San Diego State, even though I'm hating on them, the age thing credit for it. They're doing it their way. Miami's doing it their way. The $800,000 man, Nigel Pack, has been huge in this tournament. And that was the story of the offseason, was like, I can't believe that John Ruiz has publicly come out, and there's a price tag on it for the first time in college basketball history. And we're just like watching it out in the open. All the cards are on the table. This is how much he got paid to go play basketball in Miami. And he's allowed to do that now. And he wasn't great for big stretches of the season, but down the stretch, he's been phenomenal. We already knew what Isaiah Wong was. Norchad Omier, another guy they got from the portal. I love this Miami team. I love watching them. Like you said, Tyler, they clearly love playing together. That's not like my team, the Michigan Wolverines, was at all this season. It's refreshing to watch. Larinaga is the perfect leader for it, and it's the perfect team in this era, in my opinion. So I'm rooting for the Hurricanes, even though they have to get through Dauster's UConn Huskies. I would say, though, like, I think you can talk yourself into rooting for any of these teams. Like, if you are just a fan of the sport at large and you're looking at this Final Four like, it's a little gross, then root for UConn, because UConn's a legitimately great team. And if they win a national title, they hold up in the history books of like, that was a great UConn team. You can root for Miami for all the reasons we just said. We haven't even talked about Florida Atlantic yet, but like, they are the traditional little guy in this field. Like, this is a team that if they won a national title, it would be the biggest thing for quote unquote Cinderella teams since Butler's runs, right? Like, and this team is a team that I think has staying power. We haven't even mentioned them, but I feel like this is not a fluky run whatsoever. They've been that good this year.
They have staying power if they're going to be able to pay these kids. And now that everybody knows how damn good they are.
Well, that's
like,
my
thing.
thing.
Pull you up. Hey, look, that payroll is going to go through the roof for Florida Atlantic. That's the one problem with being a mid-major that makes a run in 2023 is now you got to pay your coach. You got to pay Janelle Davis. You got to pay both the Martins. You got to pay the big kid, Vlad, whatever his last, Golden from the big Russian kid. Yeah, you're gonna have to start paying some of these kids a little bit. Hey, look, FAU needs a collective, and they need one fast. I want to ask you guys this. I'm completely taking this over, Craig. I don't care what you have to say.
Sure.
Coach K's gone, right? Jim Boeheim's gone, retired. Who is the villain of college basketball right now? Is there a villain? It's not really Coach K, because Kentucky hasn't been relevant enough in recent years for it to be him. You got a guy in Dan Hurley who is completely demonstrable on the sidelines, who is a complete lunatic when it comes to the ref, who loves to curse people out while the cameras are zoomed in on his face while he's yelling at the refs, who plays for a program that has, I'll agree with Ed Cooley here, a relatively arrogant and spoiled fan base that can be very annoying online, and a program that has enough history and enough like natural rivals from old Big East and current Big East for people to hate them. If UConn can become, I don't want to say become a dynasty, but if they become like nationally relevant, consistently top 10, making Final Fours every couple of years, could Dan Hurley be the villain that college basketball needs? Tyler, what do you think?
Boy,
you gotta have someone to root against. Everyone can hate the Yankees,
you
they
do
can hate the Cowboys,
but I think he has a little more personality than Coach K. And I think Coach K, one thing that you talk about why he's such a good villain is because he kind of cut people out. No one really got an insight to what he does outside of basketball. I don't know what he does to enjoy life outside of basketball. And I feel like Hurley has a little more, like, he's just an emotional person. And honestly, when you say early in the year, when he was calling that ref an effing clown, I mean, you can see people relating to that when officials make bad calls. It's like me yelling at the fans or yelling at the refs at a Carolina game. But
you yelling at the ref? No, come on, Tyler. You would yell
the whole game. That's the best thing about being done is I can just go in there and just hammer them.
What's the craziest thing you said to a ref this? I know you went to a bunch of games. What's the craziest thing you said to a ref? And
nothing.
Better question: Could they hear you? Could they hear you when you said it?
maybe during the Duke game because I had a front row seat. I was just let me see here. I don't say anything too bad, to be honest. I'm not like Hurley. Hurley goes in, which I like. I don't think he has. He doesn't have that cold, dark side, and you see him smile. You can see him, really happy after games and wins. And I didn't really see K get too emotionally happy after big time wins. It always kind of felt like he was right there, but you could tell when he was really pissed. I can't think of a hardcore villain right now. I really can't. I want to say Mick Cronin from UCLA, just because he kind of reminds me of a mafia guy, the way he dresses. He gets real emotional. He can go at refs too.
He reminds me of a Bond villain. Like if you watch a James Bond film, just some little guy out here that's got too much power and too much money. No, Greg, I see you laughing. No,
I think an Austin Powers villain would be more outright than a Bond villain. But hey, listen, you already heard my kind thoughts about UCLA. I'm not here to diss them. Here's my take on the villain thing, Rob. I honestly think both Danny Hurley and his brother are oddly like too cute to be villains. Like there's a little bit of an element of charmingness to their asshattery, right? I think like Tyler's kind of saying in more nuanced terms than what I'm saying. Like when they do something really stupid and make a fool of themselves, like as an objective college basketball fan, I'm like, oh, did you see that? That was kind of cool. Like you can't have your villain do that. I would never say anything that Coach K did was ever cool. He was just great. And I wanted him to lose at every single turn. That's what you need. And I would never feel that way about the Hurleys, specifically Danny Hurley at all. The other element here, which is just the sad truth, is there are enough really high profile coaches who have done some really despicable human things in the last few years that it's going to be hard for someone who's just a basketball coach to be the villain in this sport right now.
Yeah, but it's so easy to hate people that have done things that are hateable. You know what I mean? Like Hurley hasn't really done anything that is hateable. And actually, like the funniest thing about him is if you talk to him off the court, he's like very, very kind of soft spoken and very sarcastic and very what's the word, like when you make fun of yourself, self-deprecating. He's like a really funny guy. And I don't know how many coaches there are that I would like that you would put on the list higher than them that you'd probably want to go get a beer with. Like I'm sure Huggins, Andy Kennedy, Frank Martin would be above him. Mike Boynton would be above him. But like he's up there on that list because he's like when you get him going, like he's a really funny, like laid back dude. It's just you get him on the court and like the ref can throw the jump ball wrong and he's just sitting there.
Yeah. I mean, that's why he can't be the villain, though. If he's at the top of the do I want to get a beer with him list, can't be the villain in college basketball. Just not how it works. All right. Coming up, we are going to go to break. But after the break, we're going to ask Tyler about all of the transfer portal movements at North Carolina and beyond. That is next on the Field of 68 after. Rob, I got a question for you. Do you ever get tired of trying to prove to me that Dan Hurley is the villain in college basketball?
Yes, I get tired of it all the time.
You looked exhausted during that run. I'm not going to lie. Well, good news, my friend. I have an answer to your problems. Vaulted is a new sports prediction app that turns your opinions into facts. You can store all of your predictions and hot takes in your own vault now and forevermore. You can challenge your friends, keep track of the results, and prove that you are, in fact, the smartest person in your friend group. Vaulted will also be releasing more than 50 pools in the next 3 months. All you have to do is download the app, sign up for your 3-month trial, and store your predictions now and forever going forward. We love Vaulted here at the Field of 68, don't we, Rob?
Yeah, I met the founder in Vegas. Awesome guy. Another guy, one of us, Greg. He is one of us.
We like guys that are one of us. Yeah, more on that later. If you see us in Houston, you'll know what that means. All right, guys. Fourth quarter here. Throw the fours up live on the Field of 68 after dark. We are on Sirius XM channel 84. And if you're watching us on the YouTube channel, throw us a like, jump in the comment section. Anything you throw at us in the comments, we will answer in the afters portion of the show right after this wraps in about 10 minutes here. All right. I alluded to it before the break. A lot of movement in the transfer portal today. this week in general, but it really feels like the last 24 hours have been just as chaotic a day as I can remember since the transfer portal has been a thing these last few years. And the biggest program at the center of it to me has been your North Carolina Tar Heels, Tyler. RJ Davis back, Armando Bacot back, Caleb Love announced he will not return to North Carolina. A couple faces are in Tar Heel Carolina blue, but let's start with those three, because I asked you multiple times throughout the season. Your answer always remained the same. If you could get all these guys back, you wanted all of them back. What does it mean that Caleb Love is not returning and that the others are?
Well, I think Randolph Childress he had a good point. We're going to know everything we want to know about Carolina basketball once the season is over. Who transfers, who stays. I think he had a good point. The one thing I don't like about this situation, and I haven't really felt that great about it all year, is it felt like Caleb Love was the fall guy. And if you have this bad of a year with these type of expectations, I don't think it falls on one person. And it feels like the fans, the media, and a lot of people just kind of gravitated and just believe that, yeah, Caleb Love, yeah, he did take some bad shots. I will say that. But so did a lot of other guys on the team, if you ask me. Yeah, he didn't have the best body language at times, but neither did the other guys. And I don't blame Caleb for all the issues and why the team didn't meet the expectations. And I can understand why he wants a fresh start. He's, receiving a lot of criticism. Maybe he just wants to go somewhere, kind of, do his own thing, or he wasn't getting along. I don't know what's going on with him, but I do know he is a great person. I mean, I know Caleb. I can validate that. He's a good kid. He does work harder than what probably people think. I go into the Smith Center randomly in odd hours just to go there, work out when I'm in Chapel Hill. And I ran into Caleb multiple times just in there getting some shots up. Always says what's up. Great kid. And also after the last game of the year, if you watch the interview, Caleb specifically said, I want to play in the NIT. He wants to continue the season. And I respected that. Kid wants to play, wants to go play for something. And he's always carried himself, in a respectable way. But I will say his body language was bad at times. There's no denying that. That's being truthful. But I wish nothing but the best for him. And was there chemistry issues? Maybe, probably, if he wants to leave. I was in college. I don't think many of my teammates ever really thought about leaving. I mean, it's just a great place to play. We all got along. You guys know how college is. It's amazing. And, it's tough to see, because when I look at this team and this roster, if you were to ask me, who do I think is the best NBA player for the Carolina team? Who has the best shot at being an NBA player? I would say Caleb. What does Caleb need? He probably needs better shot selection. He probably needs a little bit of court discipline and a little more basketball intelligence to really be the player that he wants. And he has a high ceiling. So do I like to see Caleb transfer? No, because I could see him going somewhere and being having a hell of a year. But what he's done, he arguably hit the biggest shot in Carolina history outside the Luke May shot, because they went on to win a national championship that year against Kentucky. If you Big Blue Nation is tuned in, you guys remember that shot. And then the shot he had at the Final Four last year.
You just couldn't help yourself, huh?
I couldn't leave it out. And so
I love it so much.
The shot that he hit against Duke in the Final Four will go down as one of the biggest shots in Carolina history. And I'll always remember and thank Caleb for that one.
Yeah, it was was it over Mark Williams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just the image, there's a picture of that shot. It's from like directly behind him, and you could see the ball in the air and the arc and just how high Mark Williams handed. Like, that was an unbelievable shot. I made this comparison the other day. I'm curious what you guys think about it. To me, Caleb Love is kind of where Marcus Carr was in 2021. Everybody saw the talent when it came to Marcus, right? Everyone knew how good this kid could be if he put it all together in the right way. And he leaves Minnesota, where he averaged, like, I think it was like 19-5 or something like crazy numbers, but it's like horrible efficiency numbers. Didn't really shoot at a high level, took bad shots. It was all the stuff you just mentioned. The decision making stuff, right? Like make smarter decisions, take smarter shots, be smarter about kind of integrating on the court with your teammates, kind of a thing. And he gets to Texas, and it was a little bit of like a transition, but he got there this year. He was an All-American this year. He was as good as any point guard in college basketball this year. And again, that's like a little bit of a down year in college basketball for point guards, but he was terrific. He had 16 points, 4 assists, shot 37% from 3 for a team that won the Big 12 tournament, finished second in the Big 12, and made it to the Elite Eight and came within like 3 minutes of making it to a Final Four. He ended up having a great final season. And to me, that's what Caleb Love needs. If he can find that place that'll help him, I don't know if mature is the right word, but help him kind of figure out the way that he needs to get more efficient as a player, then I think you're looking at an NBA 2 guard right there. Probably a 6-man. I don't know if he's a starter, but he's an NBA talent. And if you can find a way to kind of to get the best out of him, you're getting a hell of a basketball player.
Mm-hmm. So here's where I would push back on that, and then I want to throw it back to Tyler for his response to you, Rob. But I watched Marcus Carr at his entire tenure at Minnesota, right? I'm a Big Ten guy. The difference that I think it prevents that from being a spot-on comparison is that I felt Marcus Carr's inefficiencies at Minnesota were largely due to just the people around him. Like Marcus Carr needed to go out and take some horrible shots and try and beat everything for a Minnesota team that just didn't have really anybody around him to help. Then he had to figure out how to work himself in to a really talented Texas team, and it took him a full year to get there. And then by the time he did, it was like, oh, wow, this is working. Caleb Love has experienced almost the reverse, right? It's like he's been surrounded by supreme talent the entire time he's been in North Carolina. They had the really, really hot stretch where his shots were going in, but I don't know that his decision-making was ever what you would hope it would be with the types of talents he was playing with to the way that Marcus kind of got there 2 years down the road. Is that fair to say, Tyler?
Maybe. I'm not, boy, this would be a knock. Supreme talent might be like just a little stretch. I mean, Armando had a really good year. He's put up some great numbers, but this is still a pretty, inexperienced, before, boy, you're right there, Greg. I mean, I'm trying to think, it's tough to make the case that they weren't talented when they went to the national championship game last year. I mean, RJ Davis has really improved. He's shown that he could shoot. Armando, we've all seen what he's done. What was missing from this team is probably leadership, and is probably a little bit of court discipline. Obviously, the bench could have been implemented a little bit better to give these guys some breaks and not rely, have a sub for when somebody's having an awful night. But yeah, I would say that the thing with Caleb, I felt like he put too much pressure on himself to have explosive big games. And there's nothing wrong if you're on a talented team and you sacrifice a little bit of scoring to win ball games, get better shot selection, and improve other areas of basketball. Everyone puts so much emphasis on shooting, scoring, that they forget, hey, playing lockdown defense, that's super important too. Going after loose balls, getting steals, making winning plays, that's a huge part of the game as well. And I just felt like this team, not just Caleb in particular, if they weren't scoring, they let it affect other areas of the game. And that's where I had a problem specifically this year. It felt like kids were putting too much pressure on themselves. So it might be good for Caleb to go somewhere and, maybe
sometimes you just need a fresh start, man. Like sometimes it's just as simple as it's not working here anymore. I need a fresh start. And the one thing I will say,
Rob, I'm cutting you off. We're going to go to break here. We're going to wrap the show. We'll join everybody watching this for the afters on our YouTube channel next. Thanks for watching the Field of 68 After Dark.
All right, can I finish my point real quick? Sorry about that. I didn't realize the time. Sorry about that.
Sorry, man.
You're good.
No, it's good. We're not live on it, so they can go back and they can edit that in post. So I think the argument that I would make is we kind of saw what North Carolina's ceiling is when Caleb Love isn't NCAA tournament Caleb Love, right? And I think a lot of that is because RJ Davis is a good player that gets you to a certain point, and Armando Bacot is a really good player that gets you to a certain point, right? But then if you want to get to the level that your Final Four good, like you need second half against Duke Caleb Love. Like you need him doing that every other game. You need him playing at that level and having the confidence that that's who's going to show up. And I don't want to get into the dynamics of what's happening in that locker room or the relationships between the kids there, because like it's probably way more complicated than we can put on it in like a 3-minute segment on a podcast, right? And like, I mean, we all went to college, man. We know how difficult college can be when it comes to friends and all that kind of, like, there's a lot of emotions going on. Anything either way. I think we saw what North Carolina's ceiling can be when Caleb Love is not like elite. And I do think that's to just kind of go back to your point, but I hope that it works out for him.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's such a talented dude, and sometimes fresh starts are all you need, and we'll see where he ends up. Let me ask you guys this. Greg, where do you think a good spot for him would be?
So that was my question in general, not like where is the spot, but like, is Caleb Love the type of kid that can now go anywhere he wants? Because I would think if we're making a list of all the players in the portal, talent-wise, he's got to be near the top, if not the very top, right?
Yeah, like, I'm looking at it right now. If you're talking about just like raw talent, I would probably say that haven't committed yet. I would probably say like Khalil Ware, Khalil, whatever you pronounce it, is probably like the most talented dude because like he's a 7-footer that's got perimeter.
And depending on who you ask, Rob, like another like the risks that are there, quote unquote risks with Caleb Love are there with Khalil Ware too. Like some of the reasons anytime a kid that talented looks to leave, there's something going on sometimes.
Yeah. There's a 7'5" center from Western Kentucky that just entered the portal. I think he's going to be a pretty big player next year. I don't know his name, but I've seen him play a few games.
Arion Sharp.
I think he'll be a pretty good portal pickup for somebody. But if I'm thinking about where Caleb goes, where I think some good schools, I mean, Dennis Gates has done a good job at Mizzou. I'm not sure if they're interested. Arkansas. They didn't have a lot of good shooters. They like to get up and down. I can see Caleb going in a system like that. But those are the only two schools off the top of my head.
Missouri's actually he's from right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's from St. Louis. So Missouri is the name. Like when he entered the portal, the name that kept popping up when people texted me was is Caleb Love going to Missouri? What do you think about Caleb Love to Missouri? I don't know. We kind of did that this year with Isaiah Mosley, right? So
I'd rather see him at Arkansas than Missouri for sure. Like just as a basketball fan, I would rather see him at Arkansas under Muss. Like
that make a lot of sense. And Muss has the personality to kind of get him to buy in. And also, like, if Muss knows that Caleb Love has an advantage, he's going to give him the rock and just let him go. Like, that's what Muss does.
What about, this is another SEC school. What about Alabama? Talk about a place that's taken transfer point guards up and down style.
I don't love the fit.
No? Why not?
I don't think that it would work with wants to do or what Nate wants to do, because Nate doesn't want like you dribbling the air out of the ball and then firing up a three. Like there's very much let's get the ball. Like if you watch his point guards, Tyler, it's a lot like what you guys used to do in North Carolina, where it's the outlet and then it's the hit ahead pass. Go find a guy up the floor somewhere. The fastest way to get the ball up the court is to find the shooters, and that's not what Caleb Love does. You know what? I like Arkansas. That actually, the more that I think about it, I really like that fit.
Rob, that's a good tease also for later this week in Houston for our Final Four live shows. We are going to, at some point, play Transfer Portal Matchmaker. I put it in a Google Doc. I forced Rob Dauster to let me throw ideas on paper, and I will force my way into getting like John Fanta and Randolph Childress to play Transfer Portal Matchmaker for 30 minutes.
So you said Transfer Portal Matchmaker. That's better than what I wanted to have it be called, which was the Tamper Bachelor.
Oh God. I mean, I like that too. I feel like we would need some actual like vision, like
let me promo the stuff we're doing in Houston real quick. Wednesday night, 6 to 8 p.m. We're going to be at Little Woodrow's in Edo, which is right next to Minute Maid Park. That's the same place we're going to be 12 to 2 on Thursday afternoon and Friday afternoon. Thursday evening, we are going to be at Bayou Music House, which is where Intersport is hosting the 3-point shooting and slam dunk competition for college guys. That will be 8 to 10 p.m. Then on Friday night, 6 to 8 p.m., we will be at the Bayou Music House again, where they'll have the high school competition there. And then on Sunday, we are going to be all day at McIntyre's. Our shows are going to be 12 until 2 and 6 until 8, but we're going to be hanging out there. We may or may not imbibe a couple of beverages. We may or may not have a sponsor that will provide some beverages for us. It's not going to be Trader Joe's bourbon, Tyler. So I don't know, like, if we can still convince you to come by somehow, some way, I promise you will have at least one of the beverages that we will be drinking there. Minimum one. That's one is required. It's like, when you go into certain establishments and they say you got to pay a cover and you have to buy minimum one drink. Yeah, you'll have to have minimum one drink.
I'll do one. Maybe.
Maybe some places.
Famous last words. He'll do one. He'll do one.
Yeah, some places give you wristbands.
Is that old school?
Yeah.
What's a Hissel Lips? It's so good.
God, some places give you wristbands. Field of 68 events give you beverages. Rob, you had me at beverage, just for the record. I'm there. So yeah, come through. It'll be fun.
Carter at home, okay?
No comment. I have to be in a car with that man for 17 of the next 19 hours after we wrap this show. I'm not looking forward to it. It is what it is. All right, Trevor, let's get you back in here. Speaking of road trippers, Trevor is currently en route to Houston right now. Day 2 of 3 of your road trip from Illinois to Houston. Trevor, what's going on the YouTube?
Oh, the same old, same old. This is our last regular After Dark show for the YouTubers, so I would say that they made it good with the questions, but it's pretty average if I'm being honest. I want Rob's Miami rant that he was going to go on before I dive into a few questions here.
The FBI rant?
Yeah.
It's just the way that this happened is such fucking bullshit. My mother worked in she was a lawyer for the state, like, so she's done stuff like this before. But the way that it happened, like, it makes me question.
Wait. Is this the Misha Barton rant?
There's a lot more to it than just that. But like, the way that this all happened seriously makes me question, like, any FBI investigation that has ever happened, because I know that the way that this all worked out, for starters, there was one actual criminal involved in this entire investigation. His name was Marty Blazer. He was a guy that was a financial advisor for a bunch of professional athletes in the Pittsburgh area for like years. And what he did was he embezzled a bunch of money from the players that he represented and used it on doing a bunch of things like starting a movie. One of them was called The Resurrection. He embezzled like $2.5 million to put Devin Sawa, remember him, the guy that played Stan in that Eminem movie music video, Misha Barton, the girl from the OC, and Michael Clark Duncan, the guy from The Green Mile. Put those 3 guys in a movie about a high school kid coming back from the dead and terrorizing his bullies. That movie is like, it has the lowest rated star. If you go look at Rotten Tomatoes, it has the lowest rated stars. That's why he embezzled $2.5 million. He got caught doing it by the SEC. And what he said to the investigators was, I could give you college basketball. It's a fucking racket. So he goes, and what their plan is they're going to just give this kid, Christian Dawkins, money and use it to bribe coaches, right? To bribe coaches to try to get a commitment when they end up leaving. Tyler, let me ask you this. You played a high level of basketball. You probably had agents and financial advisors and people trying to slip you stuff all the time. If your coach tried to convince you to go to an assistant coach on your staff, tried to convince you to go to a specific financial advisor or a specific agent, how much of an influence did that have in your decision?
It would have an influence for sure, especially for my relationships with Carolina. If Coach Williams said, hey, I trust this guy, a financial advisor, it'd have a huge influence.
Yeah, so that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to give these assistant coaches to funnel players their way. And what eventually happened was that it worked, and they started giving out money to all these assistants. And when the hammer came down, the only people that ended up getting punished were the low level guys. Like, they didn't actually get anything out of this, right? They didn't blow up college basketball. There were no head coaches that really took it. Sean Miller was the head coach that took it the worst. And I mean, yeah, he coached for 5 more years at Arizona. Then, yeah, he was out for a year. And yeah, now he's back at Xavier, and he made the Sweet 16 this year was as a 3 seed.
And where was he when he was out for a year?
Oh, he's on the field of 68, you know? That's what we do. We rehab images here on the field of 68. But like everybody else, like, and that's the thing that gets me too. Like, one, the whole reason this existed was because some fucking scumbag, some financial investor that stole millions of dollars from people, told the FBI he's going to give him college basketball. All he gave him was 4 low-level assistant coaches that ended up doing actual prison time for no reason at all. Frankly, it was just the black assistant coaches that had to deal with this. If you look at all the head coaches, everybody else, they didn't have to. There's no issues there. Those guys are all back in the business. Book Richardson is a 10-year show cause now because of this. His career is over because of this investigation where he didn't actually commit a fucking crime. You'll never convince me that he committed a crime. They said that the crime was the victim in all these crimes were the universities. They were the schools. It wasn't the players. It wasn't anything else. The schools got defrauded out of using players that were eligible. That was the crime that was committed, which is so ridiculous that it just boggles my mind. But I don't know. Trevor, do you want me to keep going? Because I don't want to keep going.
No, I'm good. That was good.
Hey, Rob, I saw that. And do you remember when the FBI came out publicly and they said, all you coaches that have been cheating, the FBI is coming for you. And
we have your playbook. That's what the guy said.
And it was the biggest BS I'd seen. And also, there's a lot of, shoe representatives for shoe companies that got Merrill Code was a good he was my Nike rep. He took a lot of criticism for a lot of things that were questionably whether it was against the law or not. It was not properly handled well. And also the FBI agents were using some of the money for the investigation to gamble on, which really got them in trouble as well.
Some of it. Yeah. Some of it, like they lost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars playing blackjack when they were hammered in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, look, I just got back from Vegas. It's very easy to quickly lose money in Vegas, but like, still, you can't be gambling with the FBI's money when you're out there. What are we doing here, man? And that's the short version of it is the people that got fucked in this were a bunch of low-level assistant. Well, I don't want to say low-level, but were a bunch of assistant coaches here that weren't really the movers and the shakers and the playmakers here. They were the guys that were just a part of a system that works, right? Part of a system, a black market created by the fact that you could not profit off your name, image, like this in college basketball. Yep. Why? They created a recruiting black market, and then they tried to go get the guys that are just operating within this ecosystem that was created because of all the NCAA stuff that now no longer exists. It's just, it gets me so mad. And like Book Richardson, he's a really, really good dude, right? Like a really good dude. And his life was completely fucking blown up for nothing because the FBI listened to this scumbag Marty Blazer about all it. We can move on, Trevor. I can rant about this for hours.
Listen, at the time that all this went down, my program's coach was John Beeline, the cleanest man in the sport. I may or may not have Amazon Primed an FBI hat in support of the FBI movement, but now that I hear your Misha Barton rant, Rob, I think you make some good points. So.
Most of this pisses me off, but the fact that the guy thought he was going to get rich off of a movie with Misha Barton in 2013, like, bro, the OC ended in like 2007, okay? That was a good show like a long time ago. What are we doing here?
Wait, so all right. Wait, the movie was a kid comes back from the dead to avenge bullies?
Yeah. So I think it's called A Resurrection. If you guys want to look it up on IMDb, it was called A Resurrection.
You acting like you don't know the exact name of that movie.
Yeah, it was A Resurrection. I couldn't remember if it was The Resurrection or A Resurrection. Misha Barton, Devin Sawa,
You
Michael
probably
Clark.
know the runtime. Like you probably.
Here's the storyline. I'm reading this off of IMDb. In Middletown High School, the outcast Eli is bullied by the braggart Brandon and his friends. They are held in detention by the principal Addison to be interviewed by the psychologist Jesse, who was engaged to Deputy Travis, the son of a local priest. Jesse and Addison realize that the mentally disturbed Eli misses his big brother Devin, who was murdered in a hit and run. When Eli finally talks to Jesse, he tells that Devin was killed by Brandon. Oh, I just ruined the twist there, huh? And Eli tells that he found the body of his brother, and the witch put an evil spirit in his body, and now he needs to go kill.
All right.
Yeah. What are we doing, Trevor? Save the show.
I feel like that plot really jumped the shark when an evil witch suddenly jumped in there. Question from Yuli: who do you guys think will win?
Sitting here like, what the fuck am I doing on this show right now?
Who do you guys think will win tournament MOP? Give me your prediction.
Is that from our boy Yuli?
It is.
Love Yuli, for the record. Shout out to Yuli. Yuli, who clipped The viral clip from your Vegas weekend, by the way, of Fanta with his stains. Yuli put that out into the world, so shout out to Yuli. Tyler, who's going to win most outstanding player?
Adama Sanogo. Just dominant. I think he's had a return. I mean, if he's not scoring, he's doing something else. I think he's most likely, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the Final Four because the people that are voting are going to make the decision based off who scores the most points. So if Jordan Hawkins goes for like 20 in both games, he'll probably get it. But the answer is Adama Sanogo. He's been the best player for UConn this tournament.
I think Matt Bradley is going to average 6.5 points a game and win most outstanding player for the Aztecs.
He scored 8 points. How crazy is that? San Diego State's best player scored 8 points in the second weekend combined.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Rob.
San
Diego State has one guy on their team who averages double digits this season, and he scored 8 points in the second weekend, and they're in the Final Four. What? Like, what is happening right now? He's going to win. He's going to average 6.5. They're going to win the title, and I'm going to get clowned down by Aztecs fans. I can already see it. What else we got, Trevor?
Thoughts on reports that Mike Rhodes is headed to Penn State, or at least being offered the job?
What are the reports? Hoops Weiss?
No, there were others.
Did you guys see what Hoops Weiss tweeted today?
Yes.
Hoops Weiss tweeted that congrats to Ryan Odom on heading back to VCU. And like, I mean, that's kind of, if you read the tea leaves, that's what people expect to happen. Mike Rhodes leaves to go to Penn State. Ryan Odom leaves to go to back to VCU, get back to the East Coast. But like, come on, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
you just sent a guy to a school where the dude left yet.
Not a great look. Not a great look from Hoops. My thoughts are Mike Rhodes is a good coach. I would welcome him to my Big Ten. I will say, in a weird way, I was hoping Dusty May got the Penn State job just because I think he's fucking awesome, and Micah Shrewsbury was fucking awesome, and I want someone who's fucking awesome at 8.
I think Rhodes will do well there. I do. Because he's very good at building a culture and a program and a family, and I think that's what you have to do to be able to win at Penn State. You got to get a bunch of guys that are going to be there for 3 or 4 years. And he plays who else plays that kind of style in the big? No one does.
Nobody. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So
he's gonna have a job year 1 though.
Yeah. I don't know if we're talking like winning Big Ten good, but I think that they're like making tournaments good is what they'll be.
I like that.
Rob, we got several UConn fans in the chat asking Rob who he thinks will return for UConn next year and who will not.
I would be utterly shocked if Jordan Hawkins returns. I think it has all along been a 2-year plan for him. I think the big decision point is going to be Andre Jackson because I think he's a guy that should be drafted in the top 40. I think that there would be a team that would be willing to give him a guaranteed contract because someone's going to fall in love with the idea that he might learn how to shoot. The one to keep an eye on will be Adama Sanogo for a lot of reasons. The biggest of which is the way that the state of Connecticut deals with NIL with kids that are from out of the country. So it's they're going to have to find a way to get creative if they want him to be able to make the money that he can make. So that's one that's to track and to kind of follow.
I got a question, Rob. What uniform is Donovan Clingan wearing next year if Adama Sanogo is UConn's starting center?
Connecticut. The kid's from Bristol.
So the kid's just going to commit to 2 straight years of 12 minutes a game, as awesome as he is, so that Adama can stick around one more year after winning a national title this year?
I don't see Donovan Clingan leaving. Let's just put it like that.
I don't know either, but I don't see him back at Adama Sanogo again either.
Yeah. What was the question that was asked? Trevor, can you repeat the question?
Who's back?
Well, no, they said who's leaving. The question was who's leaving.
Okay.
And who did I mention? Fucking figure it out, Greg. Shit, Tyler even figured it out. He's sitting there like, listen to this dumbass.
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying.
You also know big guys. You don't want the 11-footers playing too much minutes. I mean,
yeah,
maybe a little bit more, but we'll see.
Listen, in all seriousness, I have a mad love affair for Donovan Clingan because I think the kid's awesome, and Juwan Howard was on him, and I thought I was going to rip him from Rob Dauster's clutches And instead, here he is just shining in like 9 minutes.
Can I tell you something awesome about his dad that you're going to love, Greg?
Yes.
His dad, every single game, sits in the crowd, and no matter who's guarding him, no matter what happens, every time Klingon touches the ball, he just stands up and starts screaming, "It's a mismatch, it's a mismatch, it's a mismatch."
Yeah, I do love that. I do love that. You're not wrong.
There's this guy that does a UConn Twitter Spaces after every single game, and Donovan's dad jumps in that Twitter Spaces all. He's awesome. No matter what happens, no matter where Klingon goes, can we just like keep his dad around? I think that's what we need to do for you.
I do love that. I just want to go on record that Donovan Klingon will be a first-team All-American, if not next year, the year after.
It would be next year if he is.
Oh,
I don't think he's
no
around.
year 3 breakout.
I don't think that he's a 3-year college basketball player.
Can he shoot?
A little bit, yeah.
That's all you need.
Well, the big thing with him is he was like a chunky dude coming out of high school. Like he did not have, he was probably like 290, 7'2", 290. And he lost a whole bunch of, like he's skinny now, right? Yeah. So the big thing with him is he needs to add the lower body strength, the core strength, all the stabilizing muscles, like all that. Because he can move a little bit. He just, like if you back him down, like if Adama Sanogo hits him with one of those shoulders to the chest, like Klingon's going flying. He needs to add all the strength that will allow him to take that kind of blow. And it takes a while to develop the body of a player like that. But yeah, if he comes back next year, he ain't coming back as a junior. First round pick.
Do you remember Walker Kessler?
Hell yeah, he is Walker Kessler. He's a year away.
Do you think they're a little similar?
Yes.
That's kind of what I think of when I see Klingon play a little bit.
Yep. And what's Walker Kessler doing this year, Tyler?
Listen, guys, I had this argument with my friends. I played against Walker Kessler in pickup, and I said, listen, Walker Kessler could be the best player Roy Williams ever coached. I think he was that talented. He had length, and he could actually move for his size. And I hated it. I hated it when he left UNC. That one really hurt. I love that kid. Yeah.
Do you want to know what he's averaging in his last 10 games right now? 13 points, 10 boards, 2 assists, and 3 blocks.
Yeah. All-starish. Yeah.
Did he only played 1 year at Auburn, didn't he?
Yep. And set the record for like most blocks in a year that we've ever seen.
Interesting. So he just needed to get out of a spot where he was only playing 9 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He was backing up Garrison Brooks. So
hey, Garrison Brooks, good player. Good player. No Garrison Brooks shots whatsoever. But
no.
All right. One to watch, Rob. We'll say that. One to watch. All right, let's go to toasts, shall we? This was a great show. Oh, thank you both for pouring bourbon with me.
I already drank all my drink. I forgot about toasts.
Oh, it's okay. just fake a toast for me. I have a little bit left. Tyler, who you want to toast to tonight? Could be anything. Anything from the season at large. Anything looking ahead to the Final Four. Who you got?
You know what? I'm giving my toast to the field of 68. Everybody. It's been an honor being on here with you guys. I've learned a lot. Your knowledge is untouchable, and I'm glad that I got to do a lot of shows with you guys. I learned a lot, and it's a really good experience for me. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Tyler,
cheers, man.
I appreciate that, man. It's been a blast getting to know you. It's been a blast having you on here, and hopefully, as you kind of grow in this media space, we can still get you coming on next season.
I hope so. I've enjoyed it. Yeah.
All right. So my toast is going to go to Conference USA. We dogged this league all year long. We dogged this league. We said they didn't have enough. They only got one team into the NCAA tournament. Well, guess what, Greg? The NIT champion is going to come from Conference USA. North Texas came from 14 down and beat your Wisconsin Badgers tonight. And UAB came from behind to beat Utah Valley in overtime tonight. Charlotte has already won the CBI. That's 3 teams right there that have made the finals of their respective tournaments. They're going to have the champions of both the CBI and the NIT, and we're heading into the final weekend of the college basketball season. And Florida Atlantic of the Conference USA is still alive. We slept on this league. We shouldn't have done it. Cheers to Conference USA.
Cheers. And the sour face I made was because that was my toast, Rob. Great toast. For the record, you did it more justice than I would have, but now I'm scrambling here to find a replacement
How about you toast the guard? You finally get to toast Wisconsin for the last team alive in the Big Ten.
Well, I was going to pour one out for them, not toast to them. Anytime something sad happens, that's what I would do.
How's it sad? They made it to the Final Four. Good for them.
I actually, my boy here in Michigan, Graham Couch, who writes for the Lansing State Journal, had a tweet. Notorious thrasher, by the way, Graham Couch had a tweet that said,
the worst, dude. His polls are so fucking bad.
No Graham Couch slander here. I
love it. Graham's a really good dude, but like his polls are so fucking bad.
His polls are bad, but I love Graham for it. Anyway, he had a tweet with like 11 minutes left in the Wisconsin game tonight. They had like a 15-point lead, and he was like, Wisconsin winning the NIT just goes to show you, like, even in a quote unquote down year for the Big Ten, how competitive and deep this league is. Wisconsin scored 0 points the final 11 minutes of the game and lost. I screenshotted it so fast. So, oh man, I'll go to Brian Dutcher. I've thrown a lot of slander at San Diego State and their fans and their team in tonight's show and the days leading up to the show. Probably I'll do more this week in Houston, but as much as I want to slander them, San Diego State is really good. Brian Dutcher, Michigan legend, the oldest head coach to make his Final Four debut. I think that's awesome, and I think he's done a fantastic job taking over the reins from Steve Fisher and turning this program into an even higher ceiling version of what Steve Fisher had at San Diego State during his tenure. So to Brian Dutcher, and also to you, Tyler Hansbrough. From me to you, my friend, I've gotten to do about 5 of these shows with you. It's still like bucket list that I'm even on a Zoom call with you talking to you, man. I was such a fan of you growing up, and to hear you compliment the Field of 68 in that way and have me be any part of that's insane to me. So
I love being on here with you. Thank you.
Cheers, my friend. All right, and cheers to our listeners as well. Thank you for watching us all year long. This was our final regular After Dark. As we said earlier in the show, we have a lot of special stuff in store for you later this week. Rob broke down for you multiple live shows every night starting tomorrow, going through the national championship on Monday. Stay tuned. If you're in Houston, come see us while we are there. For Tyler Hansbrough, for Rob Dauster, my name is Greg Waddell, and we'll see you at the